This is it, the GR Corolla, one of the last remaining hot hatches on the market today. And when it was launched exclusively with a manual transmission, it earned all our respect. It was hardcore enough and stiff enough that maybe you wouldn't want to daily it, and we all rallied behind it, no pun intended. But now this 2025 model year has brought on what some of you guys might call the most offensive update GR has made since its inception. It's offered with an 8-speed automatic. How dare they? Honestly, how dare they even consider other drivers? I'm here to tell you why it might not be so bad. All right, GR Corolla. Biggest change is the addition of an 8-speed automatic and launch control. I don't always start videos with launch control, but it's a big change and it's a lot of fun. Well, it should be a lot of fun. So let's go into sport mode, traction control off, hold both of the paddles. There we go, launch, ready, left foot on the brake, mat it, build some boost. Oh wow, there we go. That was pretty good. The 1-2 shift, a little bit delayed, but the shifts seem here to be better when you're doing launch control than when you're just in normal mode and you go full throttle. Let's slow down for a second. We'll go into normal mode. If we accelerate full throttle, the shifts are not good. But then when you put it in launch control in sport mode, it's like banging off the rev limiter in a good way. It's really snappy up top. So first impressions, a little bit inconsistent, the 8-speed. I would have a tendency to drive it in manual. It operates way better in manual. That's when Toyota's claimed shift times as quick as the dual clutch competition actually hold up. In a lot of slower scenarios, it's just not as quick or as refined as a ZF 8-speed, as the Hyundai DCT, as the DSG and the Golf R. It's just not as refined at lower speeds. And when it's cold, it has a tendency to kind of lurch, not lurch, but like you just kind of feel the shifts a little bit more and it's not as refined as it should be. That's good news though. If you are, I think what a lot of GR Corolla buyers are looking for, which is like a manic hot hatch that gets better the quicker you drive it. And that's exactly what not only this transmission does, but the car as a whole. You guys already know that. It encourages you to drive quickly and it gets better the quicker you drive, which is just such a good trait in a rally car. And the 8-speed, really good in sport mode if you're driving quickly. When you're downshifting, they haven't nailed the blip when you're just cruising here. So if I'm cruising, there it shifts. So that was quite a bit of a delay. However, on the other end, just to kind of illustrate the point, when I'm braking, then, that was under ABS, then the blips are amazing. Then it feels like a dual clutch, almost. All of this tracks with Toyota's vision for this transmission. It comes from real-world motorsport application, and although it's not a dual clutch, it's a torque converter automatic, it's one of the best I've driven. So my suggestion here on the street, leave it in sport mode, either auto or manual, and it works just fine. Look, we all know the GR Corolla can provide some really good laughs on an otherwise dark and dull winter day like today, but once the drive is over, things tend to quiet right back down real quick. And that's why I want to thank BetterHelp for today's paid partnership in this video. The winter can definitely bring on a sort of seasonal lack of motivation, and I know I can't be the only one who's experienced this. It was difficult for me, especially when I was younger, to ignore these signs and kind of drift wherever my mind would take me, and it wasn't always to a good place. Sometimes all I needed was someone else's unbiased perspective to help me slow down, break those negative patterns, and kind of help me zoom out and see the bigger picture moving forward. Therapy is absolutely one of the most powerful ways to gain insights into those areas of our lives we can't always accurately see from up close. And that's why today I'm talking about BetterHelp. They make it easy to connect you to a professional therapist who will listen and, most importantly, fit your personality and needs. Whether you're traveling or just hanging out at home, you can make a schedule that best fits your life and reach out how you want, whether it be over messaging, video, or a call. After answering just a few questions on their site, you'll be matched with a credentialed therapist in as little as a couple of days. Best part is, if you don't feel like you connect with your therapist, you can easily switch and find someone who does. Look, even if you just need someone to vent to or want some advice, BetterHelp could be a great place to do that. So if you think you may want to give BetterHelp a try, the link is in the description, betterhelp.com/roadsuntraveled. And in there, you'll also find a 10% discount off your first month. Thank you, BetterHelp. Now back to the drive. All right, so it might be obvious to some of you, maybe not so much to others. The GR Corolla has a new front bumper. The front end's been changed. Not only for looks, actually, I think it's more really for cooling. That's the focus here, not so much to make it look better, although it looks a little bit different. One interesting thing though, they've ditched the fog lights in order to create more airflow. So there's a bigger, wider gap on the bottom here for airflow. On the left here is the trans cooler for the 8-speed auto. On the right side here is an optional sub radiator for additional cooling. And then underneath the engine, they've actually began to channel more air towards the transfer case. I don't know how much that's going to affect the potential on-track overheating issues that people have had. I was about to use air quotes, but no, that actually happened. If you push your car hard enough for the clutch packs in the back, I don't know if that's going to help that, but certainly on the front end here, there's additional brake ducts also. So longer track times, longer track sessions, you can push the car harder. I mean, these brake ducts are huge. It looks awesome. I don't like white cars, but it looks great in this white here. So the bottom line is the GR Corolla trim levels have changed for this year. There's no more Circuit Edition. There's no more Morizo. Of course, that was just a launch edition, a super hardcore launch edition. Those are gone. In Canada, it's Core and Premium. And then in the US, there's Core, Premium, and Premium Plus. So if you want an automatic here in Canada, you're pretty much screwed. You cannot get a Core with an automatic here in Canada, but you can in the States. So you can get a very bare bones Core model with an automatic in the US, but not here in Canada. And of course, the Premium Plus in the States, the Premium here gets the hood bulges, you get the suede inserts on the interior. And then in the States, if you bump up from the Core to the Premium, you get things like the heated steering wheel and the heated seats. Whereas here in Canada, that's standard on the Core. So that's a good thing here in Canada. You can get a Core with a manual that comes standard with heated seats and a heated steering wheel. But if you want the automatic, you're paying a ton of money here in Canada. So GR Corolla still, of course, all-wheel drive. It has the GR4 all-wheel drive system. It's controlled by a clutch pack in the rear going to the rear differential. Now for 2025, a little bit of lift-off rotation there. For 2025, in the US, the Torsen front and rear LSDs are standard. Here in Canada, those were always standard. In previous model years, we had the ability to switch between either front, which was, 60% of the torque to the front, 40 to the rear mode, which was 70 to the rear or 30 to the front, or track mode, which was 50-50 for the track to get the best grip possible. Now, Toyota has changed that. It now says normal, which is still the same, 60-40. Then we have gravel. So that is the new track mode, actually. That is a fixed 50-50. I don't know why they said gravel. I guess that's just for like the rally routes, but I would argue, especially here in North America, that most GR Corolla drivers, if they're on a loose surface, it's gonna be snow. And that's where I would love to drive a GR Corolla, but that's a side note. And then track mode is now a computer-controlled variability between that 60-40 front split and the 30 front, 70 rear split. So you can no longer force the GR Corolla to send 70% of that torque to the rear. I don't think that is a deal breaker for me. The reason Toyota did that was for the track, and that's why it's the new track mode. Effectively, what they wanted to do was to send more torque to the rear under corner exit, so you don't get as much understeer, and they've succeeded in doing that. Lift off coming into the corner, you get the rear end light. It is a lively car. I love driving this thing. Under the hood, still the same 1.6 liter 3-cylinder turbo engine, as high strung as ever. They did bump the torque up a little bit from 273 to 295. I mean, that is insane. As if this wasn't already a high strung turbo engine putting out over 25 pounds of boost. They stuffed just a little bit more power into it. I mean, a little bit more torque, rather. The car is so quick, even despite it weighing 3,300 pounds. The auto, spec for spec, you're gaining about 44 extra pounds. So, peanuts. Peanuts. It is not a really light hot hatch, but at the same time, it's not the new M5. Oh yeah, there we go. It is so playful, even at lower speeds. Yeah, fuel economy is not great. You're in boost a lot. It's not what I would call extremely laggy, but it does have that turbo surge, whether you like that or not. It's a small engine with a lot of boost. Boost is really above 3,500 RPM though, full boost. You know, it'll start ramping up about 2,800 RPM, but 4,000 is when it really kicks you. With the suspension, they've added rebound springs to the dampers, so that's basically just to keep more contact with the road, especially on those smaller bumps, those more sudden bumps on the track. This is a car that's developed for the track, for smooth surfaces, so yeah, it's still stiff on the street. It is, you know, you don't accidentally buy a GR Corolla as a trim level, right? Golf R, yeah, if you're, 55, 60 years old, not looking, to scream down the back roads on the weekend, you could accidentally find yourself buying a Golf R just because it's the highest tier model, it's a little bit quicker, and it has all-wheel drive. That doesn't happen with the GR Corolla, so it is a little bit more hardcore by nature. It's still stiff. You can consider that a downside, but it's not quite to the point where I wouldn't want to daily drive it. This could really be your everyday car, especially if you didn't want to drive the manual in traffic. That's what this is for. So I don't think you should be offended. I think if anything, this opens up the GR Corolla to more people, more sales, more cash, which means the likelihood that Toyota and GR are going to continue building cars like this with manuals in the future is higher and more likely. GR has just rounded out the model lineup for the GR Corolla. This goes up now not only against the Golf R, which no longer has a manual, but also the WRX. You can get the WRX in a manual, a great 6-speed. You can also get it with a CVT. I've heard it's the best CVT, blah, blah, blah. But there is no way that drives as well as this. So now the automatic WRX buyers of the world have another option, and I love that. I love competition, and you guys should too. So the interior's pretty much the same as it was. The premium I'm sitting in right here has the GR suede sport seats. These are really comfortable, not quite as good, as supportive as the Type R seats, but they're really close. The rest of the interior is effectively the same. I love the minimalist kind of approach, black and white style approach on the gauge cluster. Backup camera, still terrible, still not great. Of course, there's no 360 cam, and there is an available heads-up display that we have here. Available JBL 8-speaker audio system. This is no luxury car. It's not going to blow you away. That's about it. All right, so I solicited questions from you guys on Instagram about the GR Corolla. I will try my best to go over them, and then we'll talk about pricing because it's very important here with the GR. Frank says, knowing that, you guys know Frank, he's been on the channel before, knowing this is the first true sport all-wheel drive turbo Toyota, how would you compare it to the competition? Well, Frank, that's not true at all. It's far from the first all-wheel drive sport Toyota, okay? ST165, ST185, ST205, Celicas, WRC homologation rally cars, those were phenomenal. A little bit looser, you know, in the steering and stuff. Obviously, modern car, it's got sharper steering and stuff. Compared to the competition, let's just go with the Golf R because I know Frank drives a GTI. The Golf R, first off, you can get it a little bit tail happy on the street. The GR Corolla doesn't really do that, especially if you're not on like a loose surface gravel or snowy scenario. I'd imagine in those scenarios you could get this sideways, but steering feel is better in the GR Corolla. The infotainment's not even a comparison. The Golf R sucks for infotainment. I don't like it personally. The Golf R doesn't encourage you to drive like an asshole. The GR Corolla, while it's not a homologation rally car like those older Celicas or Celicas, it encourages you to drive quickly, and it feels like a homologation rally car. And that's why I love it. It feels a little bit smaller, and it just doesn't feel as kind of twitchy. Soren says, let us know why they catch on fire with no warranty. My lips are sealed. I don't have an attorney here present, so I am not going to speak on Toyota's car fires that have happened. I am against, however, on a side note, all of this data collection that's going on. By the way, the side note of the side note, you should assume if you're buying a new car that these manufacturers and whoever they have deals with are following, even if they're not actively looking at it, they're tracking the speed you're going, how quickly you're dipping it into a corner, how fast you get on the brakes, how fast you're accelerating, how fast you're going. All of this data is going to the manufacturers. I just assume that in these new cars, but if you get into an accident or, God forbid, your engine catches on fire, if the manufacturer then voids your warranty and just states that you used the car as it was intended to use it, Toyota explicitly says they built this for the track first and foremost, street second. If they void your warranty because you went over a certain speed, that's insane. But that was a tangent. Midnight Z06 says, how does it slide? Well, not well on dry pavement. Maybe in the wet or the snow. I'm gonna try to find some snow to try that out, especially with the new GR4 controller. But just in everyday scenarios, the only way to get it to slide is really like traditional hot hatch feel, which is lift off, corner entry, and then the rear end gets light. But that is about it if you're in relatively dry conditions. L33 or I33 Steven says, how does it perform compared to popular options on the market? He's talking about the 8-speed versus the VW DSG ZF 8-speed, Ford 10-speed, or Hyundai DCT. So I kind of already mentioned the behavior when compared to the DCTs. The Ford 10-speed, that's mainly paired with V6s, larger engines, and it shifts a lot. This doesn't shift as much. It's a little bit more mild-mannered, I guess I could say. It's closer to the ZF 8-speed. I think that's a good comparison, although the ZF 8-speed is definitely more refined at lower speeds and when it's cold than this transmission. This one really wakes up and starts becoming snappy when you drive it quickly, and then it feels more close to a DCT. Yeah, if you guys have questions, follow me on Instagram. I might do this in future videos as well, but let's get into pricing. So the GR Corolla here in Canada starts at $48,000 Canadian or $39,000 USD. This one behind me here in Canadian dollars, $60,000 or $49,000 USD. So if we were to compare auto to auto, GR Corolla to Golf R, the Golf R here in Canada is $8,000 cheaper for the automatic. Now in the States, yeah, you can get the core with the auto, so it's a little bit more comparable. But even though I much prefer driving the GR Corolla over the Golf R, I would go Golf R and save $8,000. That's a no-brainer. But if you are going manual, you can, of course, get the bare bones core model with the LSDs and the manual, and that undercuts the Civic Type R and the Golf R by a little bit. So the choice is up to you, but I think price is the GR Corolla's biggest downside for 2025, especially here in Canada. Let me know what you guys think. 2025 GR Corolla, one of my favorite cars on the market. Thank you, GR. Thank you, Toyota, for allowing me the seat time, but also just for building this car in the first place. We'll see you next time.